Hello and welcome into the Cubs on Deck podcast. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Greg Huss, and today we're covering a couple different affiliates in the affiliate previews. Last week we had Luke Maley on, and we covered the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. Today we've got maybe the most experienced Cubs on Deck guest of all time. We got Brendan King joining to talk South Bend and Knoxville. BK, how's it going, buddy?
Doing great. First of all, that's an honor, but it also makes me feel a little old, but that's okay. We've known each other a long time. I always enjoy hopping on. And I was actually thinking about it right before we hopped on. I mean, this is truly the kind of no turning back point of the off season. Like, all right, like I need to start getting my life together if this is about to get busy. So,
dude, when did you start like digging in and like change? Like we were talking, like you do basketball during the off season, during the baseball off season. When do you like shift mode and you're like, oh, like I gotta start thinking like South Bend Cubs baseball is on the air in less than a month?
Literally right now, because I wrapped up my college basketball slate last weekend in Minneapolis at St. Thomas. I had St. Thomas, North Dakota State, which by the time this comes out, one of those teams is probably going to be in the NCAA tournament, which is kind of cool. But yeah, had a good game on the CW down at Louisville women against Virginia. Did a bunch of Missouri Valley stuff. So like you said, I mean, it's kind of time where you flip the page, and it's that time of year where you start to take a peek, like we're just talking about, previewing who's going to be in South Bend. But, for us too, it's, I know everybody loves to see the rosters when they come out, but unfortunately from our perspective, you guys don't see them, until a little bit after we see them. I mean, we get it, and it's almost immediately that it's out. So there's really not much you can do. There's not a lot of wiggle room.
Yeah. So I do this every year, and I did it last week with Luke as well. Gotta preface every episode by saying, like, we don't know who's going to be at these affiliates, right? Like I put together my projections for this season, and I could be way off. We talked last week with Luke. We're like, I'm not getting any better at these projections over the years. I'm not getting worse, but I'm not getting better. And yeah, man. So I just want to be sure that we're hitting on as many players as possible. These guys we're talking about today, both in South Bend and in Knoxville, are guys that I project to be there. We'll see if that's actually the case. I think and I mentioned it last week. You as the broadcaster don't know hardly in advance of us. And so like, I think when I get you guys on the show, people are like, oh, like the broadcasters know, they have an idea. Like you don't know at all. Like you don't know what's going on, which is wild.
No. Yeah. I mean, the only time, and I guess I'm lucky in this scenario, is like when a guy I know like texts me. Like last year, Cole Franklin texted me, hey, I'm going to come rehab in South Bend. I knew like 3 days in advance. Yeah. But we're lucky as broadcasters to have the personal relationships with guys. But the problem is the guys barely know where they're going this time of year.
True.
I mean, there's still a long way to go on those minor league practice fields. So listen, anybody out there that's trying to play the guessing game, unless you know anybody in the org, nobody knows. Nobody knows.
All idiots.
It's all a crapshoot.
Yeah. All right, man. Before we get into the players, I guess actually, before we get into anything, like I said, the name of this episode, as I've prefaced this leading up, like we're here to talk South Bend and Knoxville. The first half of the episode, we're going to be talking about South Bend, digging into some returning players, some new players. There's some guys that I will have more experience watching than you do in South Bend specifically, and then we're going to get up and we're going to have you do the Knoxville preview as well, which actually you will know way more players in Knoxville than in South Bend because you saw them in South Bend a year ago. Yeah. But like I said, first half is South Bend. Let's get into that first. I want to start off with the coaching staff because the players aren't anything without the coaches, and you've got a new manager in South Bend this year. You've got Daniel. Is it pronounced Wasinger? Is that how you pronounce it?
Wasinger. Yeah, almost like there's a Z. Wasinger.
Okay. He was the bench coach last year in South Bend. The year before that, he was in Myrtle Beach. I'm not sure what his title was in Myrtle Beach. What's it going to be like having Wasinger as the manager this year in South Bend?
Yeah, affectionately nicknamed Wazzy. That's what he's known by in the clubhouse. I really like him. And it's kind of a similar route for me because, Wazzy, he's pretty much the same age as Nick Lavello, and Nick Lavello and I are the same age, which is pretty nuts. And shout out Nick Lavello, first of all, going to be the bench coach with the Iowa Cubs, and a heartfelt goodbye to Kyle Moore, who was there, and KMO just took the AAA job with the Rangers. And I mean, listen, that's a major league manager in waiting there in Texas. I think that guy is one of the most impressive people I've ever been around in the game, and that's not a hyperbole or anything. That's 100%. So shout out KMO. We're gonna miss him, but well-deserved opportunity there to manage AAA Rangers. Good for Lovello. I think Nick can pretty much do whatever he wants to in the game. Obviously, the son of an MLB manager, a couple good years of experience managing South Bend to get a taste of it. And now he's going to go learn under Marty Peavy, which I don't think there are many better mentors out there. So I know Jason Kemp is going to enjoy hanging out with Nick, and you'll have to get his thoughts on that when you have him on. But yeah, on Wazzy, I think, like you said, he was in Myrtle Beach. He was the first base coach. I don't think he held like an actual position, but it was just an opportunity to learn under our guy, the late Buddy Bailey. And, I think Greg, that experience is worth his weight in gold, considering, Buddy, former catcher, Wazzy, former catcher, played in the Midwest League with Kane County at one point, 2019. And so Ariel Armas, we're going to be talking about him. He's a great catcher. He's one of the best you're ever going to have. But let's not forget, Daniel Wazinger led that catching group in South Bend last year. And
True.
Ariel Armas was number 1 in all baseball in total caught stealings. And the day he got number 60, Ariel Armas was excited guy number 1, but Daniel Wazinger was excited guy number 2. You would have thought Wazzy broke the record. So, as the fact that likely an Owen Ayers is going to be in South Bend this year, I think that's just another great name to add to the South Bend catching fraternity, which has been, think about it, 2018 was Miguel Amaya, and then you get names like, Marcus Mastroboni, Pablo Aliendo, Ethan Hearn, Casey Opitz, list goes on, now Logan Poteet as well. But yeah, after what Owen Ayers did in the fall league, sky's the limit for that dude. But I think, just to wrap it up on Wazzy, I think he's a respected guy in the clubhouse. I think he makes his expectations known. He did so last year as bench coach, filled in 1 week for Lovello on managing, and, it was seamless. Didn't really notice much of a difference. He did get tossed once last year, so he already has some practice in that.
Nice. Oh yeah. What did you get tossed for? What was that situation?
He didn't even get his money's worth. He was just barking from the dugout and got the hook, and he didn't get his money's worth either. He didn't walk out. He just kind of walked away. So
plenty of opportunity this year for that.
Plenty of time. But I'm excited to work with him because I think it's a well-deserved opportunity, and it's amazing. It's another former catcher that's being a skipper. It's incredible how many there are.
Yeah. Let's dig into the players here. We'll start off, we'll do returning and then new for each of these kind of position groups. I think that's the best way to kind of go about doing this. We'll start off with the returning pitchers. Returning is kind of a interesting term because like some of these guys have spent very little time in South Bend. So like when I say returning, it's not like a full season last year in South Bend and now another full season. It could be like for some of these guys that they got like a few weeks last year and they'll get like a month this year. So let's use that term very loosely. Let's talk about 3 guys I'm highlighting here for returning pitchers in South Bend. One is Nazir Mule, one is Dom Hambley, and one is Koen Moreno. And I think that like on last week's episode, we kind of talked about pitchers generally. We didn't talk starting pitchers versus relievers. Once you get up to South Bend, there's still the piggybacking happening a little bit, but not as much as you see down in Myrtle Beach. I think that Naz Mule, starting pitcher last year, I'm really interested to see if he still works as a starting pitcher this year and moving forward, if they convert him to relief like what we saw from a guy like Daniel Palencia or Luke Little, some of those fireballing pitchers in years past. Dom Hambley and Koen Moreno, both relievers now and in the future. What's your take on those 3 guys?
Yeah, all totally different stuff too. Right?
Yeah,
all
for sure.
Totally different approaches on the mound. I don't know if we saw enough of Mule to really get a good enough perspective on him at high A. I think, first of all, his stuff jumps off the page, really strong, seems to be back to 100% after that Tommy John a few years ago. I think the first thing, obviously, that concerns you is he's never had an outing in his pro career where he hasn't walked a guy. And that's still developing. But you kind of took the words right out of my mouth of, is this the Danny P. Luke Little time? Because, Daniel Palencia was a starter in South Bend 2022. Luke Little split the year, and then Luke came back to us in 2023 as a starter, but then got put on the fast track.
Yeah.
So it's usually when you get to this point, at least historically, where that decision is made. Now, obviously, there are some new decision makers from those periods, 2022, 2023. So does Zombro and company want to do the same thing? But I think it's, especially if you have concerns about his longevity, I'd say you pull the trigger right now because, I mean, again, if it's on, nobody's hitting that.
Yeah, I'm all for it, man. Like I think that yeah, if you want to get the innings up a little bit, you work him as a starter at the beginning of the year. But honestly, dude, like at the beginning of the year, anyways, even starting pitchers aren't going more than 3 innings, right? So like, I don't think that you immediately have to convert him to a 1-inning reliever right now, right? Like he can be a reliever, he can be a multi-inning reliever, he can be 2-3 innings right out the gate. I'm all for Mule being a reliever like right now, fast tracking him because it's a lot to live up to expectations of Daniel Palencia. I'm not saying that Naz Mule is Daniel Palencia. Who's going to be the closer in 2 years in Chicago, but like I think it is time for him.
It's right in that realm. And I think it'd be a fine decision. But like you said, like Danny P to start that year, he was with us the whole year. He wasn't going more than 3 innings to start that year. They didn't start letting him go 5-6 until very late, and then into the playoffs.
But you're right though, that is a different era though. Like that
different
era, like we saw guys throwing way more pitches in the system last year. Way more pitches.
Yeah. Oh my God. Tyler Schlaffer was Koen. I mean, Kenton Egbert, that last start of 2025, that was crazy where they almost let him go a complete game. It was nearly a complete game shutout. I mean, I feel like that was yesterday when I was watching it. But yeah, I think Mule, I mean, all the potential in the world. Just can you figure out the stuff? And I think if anybody can do it, it's this pitching core that's running the show. Hambley, we didn't get a really good look at, and the outings he was throwing, it was a tough adjustment to high A. But I think if you look at his numbers from Myrtle, I mean, that's a guy that if he's comfortable and if he has a good spring training, he could come out and get back to how he was. Now Moreno, I really enjoyed watching Koen last year because it was a nice redemption story. It was like the quickest rehab from Tommy John I've ever seen, by the way, too. That was nuts. And I'll never forget his first outing back. We were in Beloit. It was August. We took 5 of 6 that week from Beloit. That was the Yency Almonte experience when he was with us for like that whole month. And the vibe in the locker room was just incredible with him every day. He had his wife and his son with. I remember being at the Beloit Walmart and he was walking the aisles with his son and his wife. Like,
that's so cool.
Buying groceries for the week. He's just here's a big leaguer staying with us in Beloit. Yeah. But that just pumped up everything in the clubhouse and everybody was feeling good. And Koen shows up first outing back 2 1/3 scoreless. But in every inning, he had to work out of a jam with at least a guy at second base. 2 of the 3 innings, a guy was at third and didn't give up anything. He responded from that by going 3 2/3 scoreless in his next outing. And I think he had 4 or 5 total outings and only gave up 1 run or 2 runs. So that was great to see. And then obviously he went to go do what he did in the fall league and I mean, absolutely shoved. So, that's one where, I mean, I think people kind of forget that he's the 2020 draft pick in that shortened draft. And maybe there are some question marks around that, especially with who else was drafted that year and who else was picked up that year. But hey, I mean, again, this is a different era of Cubs decision makers too. But they had an inkling to pick him up, and if that consistency and that approach stays like it is, I mean, he's primed to have a year, and I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, for Koen, it's all about like throwing more strikes, right? Like the walk rate throughout his entire career has been elevated, and like if the stuff is impressive, if he can find the zone with more consistency like that, you're looking at an entirely different picture than what we've seen over the course of the past several years. So yeah, all 3 of those guys are interesting at their own different levels. As far as new pitchers coming in, like you're basically getting an entirely new starting rotation based off new guys that you have not seen yet in South Bend. Ethan Flanagan is there. I think that he's the top prospect of mine that's going to be in South Bend. Jostin Florentino he was the Cubs minor league pitcher of the year last year.
Excited to see him.
Super excited for him. JP Wheat will probably be up in South Bend. He's not too different than the Naz Mule kind of situation where electric stuff. Maybe we see him in the rotation. Maybe we see him converted to the bullpen. And then you've got a trio of guys that are new to the organization as a whole that I've got here. One is Jake Knapp, who is maybe the most interesting story in the entire organization this year. Like he is older than Cade Horton, Jake Knapp is older than Cade Horton. Pitched last year at North Carolina. He was he was at least a 5, maybe a 6-year guy at North Carolina. Super interesting to see. He had, by a lot of the stuff plus metrics, Jake Knapp had the best fastball in all of college baseball last year, which is super interesting. Pierce Coppola could be in that rotation. I think that he's another one of those guys. I talked last week with Luke about how it's tough to project college draft picks from the year prior. Yeah. Will they skip a level, especially guys that are in the SEC like Pierce Coppola was? Will they skip a level and go up to high A? Will they start in Myrtle Beach? Tough to say. Pierce Coppola is my breakout pick for the season. Like he is the guy that I've got as a top 30 prospect in the organization. I'm really excited for Pierce Coppola. Big old lefty, like big, tall lefty. Throws kind of at an awkward, like weird arm slot.
Luke Little 2.0?
A little bit of Luke Little with him for sure. Pierce Coppola was among the top pitchers in all of college baseball last year in terms of strikeout rate minus walk rate, which is like, that's a pretty like, that's something that translates from level to level, is that skill to strike out a bunch of dudes and walk very little. He was among the best in all of college baseball last year. The last name I'll throw out here before tossing it to you just for who you're excited about, Tyler Raz is another name I have projected for South Bend right now. Where was that interview? Tyler Zombro came out and spoke with somebody recently, maybe at the Athletic or somewhere, where mentioned Tyler Raz. Oh, actually, no, it was a friend of the show, Tommy Birch, over at the Des Moines Register. He had an article about Tyler Raz where Tyler Zombro indicated in the interview that he might be up in AA Knoxville to start off the year, which like you don't get that level of candidness from Tyler Zombro. But I still have him for South Bend. We'll see where he ends up, but another super exciting arm. So what of those 6 guys that I just flew through stands out? Who stands out the most for you, BK?
Well, obviously, again, I mean, us in South Bend, we hear about these guys and the storylines and the headlines they're making at Myrtle Beach. I mean, heard all about Flanagan last year, obviously, and what he did with the command. But I think, there are a couple. We really haven't had a ton of dominant left-handed pitching in South Bend in a while. It's really, to me, been kind of since Wicks and Hers and Little left.
And Braylon Marquez.
Oh, God.
He was so good with you guys.
Dude, he struck out 14 guys in a game.
Yeah. Oh, man. I remember watching that game. I remember tuning in and watching that Marquez game, like where I was watching that game.
I'll never forget it. I mean, you're looking at each other like, is this the Kerry Wood 20 strikeout game 2.0?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on here? Like, they can't touch him. It's amazing how some guys are just born with it. And, forget about what happened with, forget it. But just guys that are just born with talent, and on any given night, they'd be like, you're done. Like, I'm going to beat you.
I'm better than you. Yeah.
And that was that night. And I'll never forget it. But point being, since Jordan Wicks and DJ Hers left, there just hasn't been a ton of left-handed starting pitching that has come through South Bend. And that's exciting to have because it, again, like this level in the minor leagues, it's development. But, it's nice to be able to play chess at this level too, and seeing managers combat the starting pitcher from that day. So excited to see Flanagan. I'm excited to see Coppola on the mound. Just see what that 6'7" looks like out there. I mean, again, it's been since really Luke Little that we saw something like that. But I will say too, like when you get to this level, in a lot of cases, guys are going to be pitching in the cold for the first time. And
That's a good point.
And as much as I don't really give much to, as much as I don't pay attention to a guy struggling in April, I do look at how a pitcher handles it. If he is game type to pitch in that, because if you want to get to the highest level, you got to pitch at Wrigley in March or April, and it's even worse. So how do you handle the Midwest League? Now, again, if a guy hits 200, like whatever, I don't care. If a guy gives up runs, but does he battle? Does he stay out there, and is he competitive? Because that's what I look for. That's going to tell you that he can be a Cub.
Yeah, and I mean, but with Flanagan and Coppola, those are two lefties that very different pitch. I mean, like Flanagan's coming off, he missed a couple seasons after his draft year because of injury. Got a late start up in Myrtle Beach last year, but statistically was almost as good as Jostin Florentino was last year. And
Yeah.
Jostin Florentino took home minor league pitcher of the year.
Mm-hmm.
That's no joke. Obviously, Ethan Flanagan was old for the level in Myrtle Beach. And so I think because of that, I think Flanagan's in a situation where if he performs well in South Bend to start off this campaign, I don't think he's long for you guys. I think that he'll get bumped up to Knoxville pretty quickly if he performs well.
Yeah, and I mean, the Midwest League too has changed a little bit, Greg. We're kind of in the same thing as Carolina League. There's a lot of parity with age now.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
it used to be like the fact that we had Jefferson as an 18-year-old a few years ago. Like there were no 18-year-olds in the Midwest League when it was low A. When I was this is going to be my 7th year in South Bend, which is nuts. But like when I first started in 2018, seeing a 19-year-old Miguel Amaya was like, whoa.
Yeah,
that's crazy. But now you're getting these teenagers in South Bend. So I think, Flanagan it's not even going to be much of a difference because you see these teams, especially San Diego. I can't tell you how many 18 and 19-year-olds Fort Wayne has. Like you're going up and down their roster. These dudes are born in 2007. You're like, what? And like what? You look at that and you think it's a misprint on the roster. You're like, oh my God. This is bad.
That's crazy, man. How excited are you to see the Cubs minor league pitcher of the year, Jostin Florentino?
Big time. But again, like kind of back to what I just said of how does he handle the first few starts in South Bend? Because we're going to open at home. We're going to go to Peoria. We're going to come back home. We're going to go to Dayton. And not that there are any warm spots in the Midwest League. There's not. But, there are better places to play than others in April.
Yeah.
But at that first start in South Bend, what if the wind chill is down? What if there are snowflakes? But it's just the gamesmanship that I'm really looking for. But again, you look at what the guy did on video, it's disgusting, and it was a high rise. So really pumped to see him.
For sure. Anything else you want to hit on with as far as pitchers go? We can move on to the infielders and catchers here.
No, I'm good.
Let's talk returning infielders and catchers, which I don't have much here. The dynamic here is a little bit different than last weekend in Myrtle Beach, but returning infielders and catchers, I've got Logan Poteet as a returning catcher, and then Cameron Sisneros as first base / DH guy. You got to see a lot of Cameron Sisneros last year. Yeah. Not as much of Logan Poteet after he got drafted and assigned there. I guess, especially with Sisneros, what stands out with him?
How easy it is of how he looks to slap the ball the other way. There's only one guy I can think of that made it look as easy as he did, and that's Moises Ballesteros. I'm not sure if there's another guy I've come across in the org from that left-hand side, especially that he's got that wide open stance, and then he's just going to poke it down the third base line and be like, haha, to the other pitcher.
I'll throw out one name, though, in that mix.
Yeah.
That different type of player a little bit. Yohendrick Pinango was really good at that. He was really good at that.
Especially as he got older.
Yeah, he was.
That 22 championship year, he terrorized the opposite field. Once he grew up a little bit, and I'm happy for him in Toronto as well, that he's getting an opportunity and he deserves it. But yeah, I mean, and then maybe Brett Bateman. Obviously, you saw his base hit at spring training the other day. I mean, that was beautiful after the 9 or 10 pitch AB. That was sick.
Yep.
But yeah, I think Cam, like he's still growing into his power as well. His BP sessions were as fun to watch as anybody because like they were like, hey, fastball upcoming, he just slap it to left center. Like, we're going to throw you a slider and he just, hit a little blooper to shallow right. And then, they'd be throwing BP fastballs and he'd be hitting it over the wall in right center. So I think he's still a guy that is coming to his full potential. It was unfortunate because last year he got hurt like August-ish and he tried to play through it and he came back and then it re-aggravated. And then that end of the season, he just wasn't right. But when he first showed up, it was, I mean, he jolted into that lineup. They gave him an opportunity to play. So really excited about what he can do. And then Logan Poteet, didn't see a lot of him, but I loved being around him. I mean, first pro bomb last day of the season, he caught the Kenton Egbert gem, which I was really impressed with. He barely knew the guy, and he nearly caught a complete game shutout from him. I think that shows adaptability. I think he's really, really big, strong. if he's going to be the backup to Owen Ayers, I think that's a pretty good 1-2 punch as a catcher. And who knows,
Sure.
if Owen Ayers, we don't know, like how long does he stay? Does he rake? Does he not? But I'm not sure if we've had if that is the 1-2 punch at catcher, and then maybe like a Dylan Granadillo is number 3. I mean, that's as reliable as a catching core that I've heard of, because everybody loves Dylan Granadillo. That guy is beloved by his teammates. Beloved. And Logan is a great guy to get along with. I'm excited to meet Owen. But yeah, I mean, Logan Poteet, that's a kind of a late round draft flyer that he's got the body type. He's got a good swing. I mean, that's one to keep an eye on.
He will get a lot of at bats this year. Yeah. A lot of at bats. I mean, because you're getting a good mix as a catcher, anyways, with the starting catcher. Obviously, giving some days off and stuff like that. But like Owen Ayers, who we'll get into in a second, like he's not. If he performs the way that we expect him to, he won't be in South Bend very long. He's going to get bumped up to Knoxville, and so at that point, we just covered catchers last week on Myrtle Beach. There's not really anybody there that's beating down the door to come up to South Bend. And so when Owen Ayers goes up, Logan Poteet is that guy that gets those everyday at-bats behind the plate. And so, like, I think he's going to get a lot of at-bats this season for South Bend. That's super, super fun. So let's talk about the new infielders and catchers, because I think this is where this team, like, in my opinion, South Bend, and I'm not playing to you here, but South Bend is the team to watch this season. I think that this is the most fun team to watch on a daily basis in this Cubs organization. And I think that the way the rotation that we just covered a little bit, like that's some fun storylines with some of those guys, definitely some good players, but it's these infielders and outfielders that really stand out to me. I've got 6 names here highlighted. We'll cover a couple of them at a time. Owen Ayers, we've already hit on quite a bit here, and Cole Mathis are both guys that were a little bit older for the level in Myrtle Beach last year. Both guys that I have as top 15 prospects in the organization, top 20, top 15 prospects in the organization. I'm really excited. I'm really excited about both these guys. I'm excited about Cole Mathis to see consistent ABs from him more than anything. And then Owen Ayers to make sure that what we saw last year is legit and watch him like take it up a notch,
Yeah. Well, I think what you said at the end of that Poteet answer was really important, because last year, I referenced that Beloit series when we took 5 of 6 from Beloit. We jumped into first place, and right after that series, we lost everybody. Everybody went to Double A.
Yeah.
And we just kind of fell off the face of the earth, which happens. I don't know if that's going to happen this year, especially after the first set after the Ayers types leave.
Yep.
Which is why I'm really excited about this team. We could mention this more in like the wrap up of South Bend, but like Greg, I've told people, and I'm not trying to like count my chickens or anything, but depending on how this roster shakes out, like let's say by June, this has potential to be the best South Bend Cubs first half team ever. And again, I'm very careful when I say that, because
for sure.
I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot of minor league baseball, but I'm not sure if we've ever had a roster. We've had talented first half rosters, but we've typically had really raw first half rosters.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not sure if we've seen this dynamic of a first half pause, especially with Ayers coming off the fall league, Mathis being healthy, some guys you're about to mention, and then pairing with some returns. It feels different. And I'm not sure, again, in my time in South Bend, both championships, obviously we were a second half. We didn't get PCA until the second half. We had Owen Casey to start 22, but he was so raw, and it was almost like watching a baby giraffe learning how to walk. Like, like it's like, here he comes. So it's exciting.
That's actually, so I had not even remotely considered that point. That's a really good point. But like these six infielders that were the new infielders that we're looking at, I've got Owen Ayers, Cole Mathis, and Matt Halbach listed here. And those 3 guys are all players that with good first halves will be up in Double A for the second half.
Yeah.
The other 3 guys I have listed, Southisene, Angel Cepeda, and Yahil Melendez, are all 3 guys that I expect to spend the entire season in South Bend, unless they go nuclear, right?
Yeah, sure.
If they go crazy. But the expectation is for all 3 of those guys to be full years in South Bend. And so that provides like a really unique dynamic where you are a really good first half team, and all those guys, every single one of those guys are riding a hot second half down at Myrtle Beach. Every single one of those dudes running a hot second half in Myrtle Beach into the season. So they're going to be coming in hot this year. And you're still going to hold over some of those dudes, the Ty Southisene, Cepeda, and Melendez in the second half, even when you lose Ayers, Mathis, and Halbach up to Knoxville. And that's super, super fun just from a enjoying this team perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I mean, listen, like minor league baseball, what I said earlier, it's about development, and you need to remind yourself about that, especially in a long season when you're calling games. And you listen, I'm as passionate about the South Bend Cubs as anybody in the world, and I take my job seriously with that. I want to present the best baseball possible, but in years past, you've kind of had to, it's like, all right, this is supposed to happen. But when you strike gold and you're like, man, all right, we're gonna keep these guys and we might get some help, and this guy's getting really hot, or I'm not rooting against it. Let's say somebody struggles to start the year and they don't put themselves in position to go to Knoxville, and then they get hot in the second half. You're like, okay, this can really help us. So again, it's like you don't count your chickens, and you're not assuming anything, but just on paper, especially too if a certain first round pick winds up in town as well. I mean, I know we're going to talk about outfielders in a second, but think about a potential South Bend Cubs outfield of Snell, Kepley, and Conrad. That's nuts. That's
fun,
nuts.
Man. That's fun. Yeah. That is incredibly fun. We'll move on to the outfield. I think that's good. Let me wrap up these infielders here, because some storylines to kind of, the infield is full of storylines here, right? Like some storylines to hit on. Owen Ayers, it's that good, not great performance last year in Myrtle Beach, followed up with an electric Arizona Fall League. And right, so like this is kind of a real true like prove it year from Owen Ayers, kind of in the same way that we saw Jonathan Long a couple of years ago. Like entering last season, we watched John. We were coming off a 2024 campaign of Johnny Long, where he was not as good with you guys in South Bend, got bumped up second half of the year, went crazy in Knoxville, and we kind of entered 2025. It's like, is that second half legit? And it was, right?
It was.
We're kind of doing the same thing with Owen Ayers, where like the first half of the year, like he looked good, right? He looked solid for Myrtle Beach, but then he got hurt. And then we watched him go crazy in the Arizona Fall League, and now we're entering 2026, and we're like, is that Arizona Fall League performance, is that legit? And so like they just kind of got that storyline for Owen Ayers. Cole Mathis, it's like we talked about him on the show this offseason. Like we know as little about Cole Mathis. We know as little about he's the guy we know the very least about as far as a second round draft pick from 3 years ago, right? That's not like for a position player. Like we see that with pitchers that go through Tommy John and stuff like that. We're going to learn a whole lot about Cole Mathis this year, whether he can play first base, third base, corner outfield. Kind of same story goes for Matt Halbach. Like where is he playing? Can he display that pop with the plate that we hope he can? Because Matt Halbach is a super interesting bat too.
What you said about Mathis is important, and I'm excited to see Halbach, by the way, because I feel like Halbach in Myrtle Beach last year was almost like, remember when Calmer was going nuclear with the Pelicans?
Yep.
It was almost 100%. Like the Calmer, this guy just homered again. Like, oh my God, what is going on there? Get some garbage can lids over your head. This guy's it's absolutely hitting nukes. With Mathis though, like, that's an interesting one because a lot of eyeballs are going to be on him in early April. For sure. And I repeatedly say again, like I do not digest hitting stats from the first month. So I think, one of either two things are going to happen. He's going to struggle or he's going to be great. And if he struggles, anybody out there, I just wouldn't dog him.
Yeah.
Like give him a month and a half
until
Memorial Day. And then let him pick it up. Like that just kind of screams to me like just let him get consistent at. That was what happened to Owen Casey was, I mean, I wish I could have given him more encouragement in that first month in South Bend because it just was not there. And then he found it and went off. So I would say the same thing about Mathis.
For sure. And even the young guys here, right? There's storylines. I mean, Ty Southisene, like we're keeping an eye on the pop, because
Yeah.
we know he can play great defense at second base. We know he doesn't strike out much. We know he walks a ton, but he just has zero pop at the plate.
Yeah.
So like if you can develop a little bit of that, that's what we're watching. Cepeda can legitimately put himself in top 5 prospect in the organization territory if he can cut down on the swing and miss and continue to develop elsewhere. Just a lot to like about that infield group for sure. So let's talk outfielders. We'll talk returning guys first. Cade Snell and Leo Espinoza. Cade Snell got just a taste after being drafted. Obviously skipped a level, went up to high A. We had him on the show here this past offseason.
I loved it.
Great dude. Like a great dude. He talked about on the show basically how incredibly critical that assignment to South Bend was at the end of last year, just to make sure he understood what pro baseball was, and then this offseason know what he needed to work on entering this season. Excited for him. And then Leo Espinoza is like low-key one of my favorite dudes in the entire organization.
Me too.
What's your take on those two guys?
I love both of them dearly. So Cade Snell, I'm so glad that I had an opportunity to meet him and work with him. He's a guy that screams to me as somebody that people at Wrigley would fall in love with if he's able to make it. He's that type of dude. I think his jersey sales would be off the hook because he'd be signing autographs down that third base line every single day for kids. He'd be smiling during interviews. He'd be making plays. He is everything that you want in how to market a baseball player.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed your interview with him. And I'm really glad you asked him too about the stolen base thing at Alabama, because that's a crazy story. He told me that story on the bus. And I was like, hey, can I use that during a broadcast? He goes, hell yeah, go for it. I said, thanks. So, but yeah, I think what you said, and you summed it up, I don't need to explain further, but sometimes these guys who just are on endless success in college baseball need a chance to fail. And a lot of times that works well. I really enjoyed watching him play baseball. The home run that he robbed in Beloit was nasty too. I mean, that was as cool of a catch as I've ever seen. Actually, probably the two best South Bend Cubs catches I've ever called were both in Beloit. There was the PCA sliding catch on the warning track in left center.
Yeah.
And then the Snell rob. And Snell actually credits Espinoza for the robbery. He said that Espinoza screamed at him when to jump. So
really?
They were working on outfield stuff.
That's cool.
At the start of that series, and they were actually working on home run robberies because anytime there's a fence where you can do it, they work on it.
Yeah.
And I guess Snell and Espinoza was in center. Espinoza and Snell had like a timing thing down, and Espinoza screamed at him when the jump, and he got it. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, so pretty cool story. But yeah, I think Cade, I have high expectations for him to start the year. I think obviously it'll be his first time playing in the cold, so give him time there. But just based on how he ended last year, I mean, that guy is uber competitive, and I know he'll be ready to play. Espinoza, I think he's like one of the best swag dudes I've ever seen in the clubhouse. Where, I remember last year when he showed up, it was the doldrums of the summer. He was getting to that point of like, man, we still have a month and a half left. And then he shows up and immediately like music in the clubhouse, music on the bus, smiles, laughs. And I just feel like everybody kind of chipped up a little bit. I think, obviously he's not going to be a headliner roster guy, but I think he's a necessity on a roster because, again, whether or not he makes the big leagues, he's just your perfect example of somebody that you need in a clubhouse in baseball. And he hits the ball hard. He really does. Line drive type guy and a great guy at the top of a lineup. I also think he's a great potential like 9 hitter to kind of flip, almost act as that secondary leadoff guy. And obviously he also is able to play multiple positions for you. So, that's like your gadget guy. If you're talking football, it's your glue guy. And I think everybody loves him, especially like, Cade Snell and him just started like a immediate bromance, which I think is hilarious.
That's
like
so
they
cool.
Come from different cultures, have never met each other. And then, they're bromance in there in the outfield. So pretty cool.
A little bit different vibes, but I'm getting some Cole Roeder from Cade Snell in terms of like how likable he is. Like like a little bit more energy from Cole than from Kade.
Yeah, a little bit.
But how likable he is, and then also like the type of player a little bit, right? Like
Yeah.
Cole, like it's incredibly important for Kade Snell to like develop a little bit more pop if he's going to be that corner outfielder, or really improve the defense in center field in the same way that Cole Roeder was, right? That Cole was that kind of like in between left field, right field, center field. Like the way they play is very similar to, in addition to being good clubhouse guys.
Yeah, it's a good comp. I like that. Yeah, I think Snell had 10 homers in his last year at Bama, so I think that will come. Obviously, you change out the bats, but I think that will come. I mean,
sure.
he hit some balls last year that should have been out that just had some horrendous luck on him. So I feel like
he had bad luck.
Yeah, he did. He really did.
Yeah.
So no, that's a guy I'm really excited to watch.
Let's talk new outfielders. I've got two on the list. We talked about Ethan Conrad last week with Myrtle. However, two things. One, he's such an incredible prospect, and we don't really know where he's going to be assigned. I want to get your take on Ethan Conrad. In addition to Kane Kepley is a guy that I have projected for South Bend. And then Jose Escobar is a new guy in the mix here, and I can talk about him a little bit. But
yeah,
what's your take on the combo of Kane Kepley and Ethan Conrad, that 1-2 punch?
I love the approach by the Cubs. I think they were aggressive in this draft. I don't think they took the easy way out at all, especially drafting an injured guy in Conrad. I mean, that shows belief. And yeah, I mean that's the ultimate prize. It feels like, right? It's the ultimate mystery of what's going to happen here. Is that a 2-week stay in Myrtle Beach and then he gets the jolt up, and then 2 more weeks and then he does it again? I mean, if it follows the Cam Smith approach, I mean that's like 7 days, and 7 more days, right? So there just are not a lot of these opportunities where there's a first round pick. I mean, it sounds sexy sometimes. You're like first round pick, but the way the Cubs have drafted first round pick position players, I mean, Nico Horner, because he got hurt, was with us for 4 games in 2018, but you saw it. Matt Shaw was with us for a little bit, but you saw it. Cam Smith was with us for a hot second, but you saw it. It's just the ultimate mystery though, because what's this going to be? Is it going to be scorched earth from the start? Is it going to be a slow start? I think it has all kinds of possibilities to it, but just based on what I've watched and what I've seen, I mean, guys got potential to be everything and more. But I think it's also a perfect lineup compliment to Kane Kepley. And I got to meet Kane at Cubs convention and absolutely loved talking to him for 10 or 20 minutes of just getting to know him. And I mean, he quietly spoken, but really funny, very friendly. Yes, sir. No, sir. I was like, come on, man. Like, I mean, just the broadcaster. But I think that's a guy, Greg, that South Bend fans, South Bend fans flock to stars and they know when there's one. I mean, I'll never forget when we had Chris Morel and minor league baseball is funny because the majority of people at games are not there for the players. Just being, they're there for the experience. But you have a player when those people start to fall in love with guys on your team. And that's Morel was exactly that. I think Kepley is going to be the same exact way, just based on the kind of that firecracker approach and how he plays. I think people are going to fall in love with him defensively at the top of the lineup. I think anytime he steps up to bat, people are kind of going to be sitting up in their seats like, hey, what are you going to be able to do here? Like, you're going to be able to get on base, steal a bag. That's what happened with Pete. Like, whenever Pete got on base in South Bend, people were at the edge of their seats like, oh, here he goes. Like, or like he hits a ball to the gap and he's rounding second. Everybody's like, oh my God, here we go. I think it's going to be kind of the same thing. So I'm excited about that.
Just wild. Well, first of all, Kane Kepley's getting a decent amount of run in Major League spring training games, which is super fun. Just wildly appropriate that his first action in a Major League spring training game was him pinch running at second base and stealing third immediately. Like it's just incredibly on brand. Like, he is appointment television. Now, aside from, like, we can sit here and talk about Kane Kepley, the prospect, all day for an entire episode. He is the guy to be entertained by in South Bend on a daily basis. And it's gonna be super, super fun. So last guy I've got here is Jose Escobar. And I think that, like, With Jose Escobar, it's really interesting, right? Like he spent last year and the year prior in Myrtle Beach. In 2024, he was really good statistically, both being young and playing in a really tough ballpark and just putting up good numbers at that age in Myrtle Beach. Last year, he kind of came back down to earth a little bit, but like we forget, like Jose Escobar is still 21 years old. Like he's still a young dude, and so like you mentioned before, like we're seeing younger guys at the high A level. I'm really excited for Jose Escobar and like what he can become. I think that like he probably fills in as like I think there's probably a platoon, assuming that Ethan Conrad starts off the year in Myrtle Beach. I think that you're probably seeing a platoon of Jose Escobar facing righties and Leo Espinoza facing lefties in South Bend, and playing left field with Kane Kepley in center, and you've got Kate Snell in right field. But I'm really excited to see what Jose Escobar is this year because I think that like he's somebody that a lot of us are probably sleeping on, but I think he can be really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's in a packed outfield, there are few opportunities to shine, and it's kind of like off the air we were talking about like my college basketball broadcasting stuff. It's like somebody's got to believe in you to put you somewhere, and then you got to show up and you got to perform when the lights are on. And usually, especially with a new manager, Daniel Wasinger, I understand that the lineups are oftentimes predetermined, but in a lot of cases, you're going to play more if simply you show up, and especially under a new manager, Wazzy doesn't have any loyalty to the new guys coming in.
Yeah.
So playing time, like you said, until obviously at some point Ethan Conrad's going to be in a South Bend Cubs uniform, but until that day comes, I mean, there's opportunity to play, and who's going to jump on it?
All right, so I definitely want to get your take on some other players throughout the organization. We're gonna transition over here to Knoxville in a second.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else that you see being in South Bend before we move on to Knoxville that you're excited or that we haven't really hit on yet? We've hit on a lot of names here, though.
Yeah, I think just kind of from a bench role, I don't know how much room there's going to be for him on a everyday basis, but I'm a big Drew Bowser fan.
Yeah.
I continue to be. I obviously I'm sure he'd be the first guy to tell you that he might have had a bit of an underwhelming 2025, but I'll never forget he had a grand slam taken away in Dayton because we played a day game in Dayton. He had a grand slam. They put the tarp on the field 2 separate times. The field got wrecked, and they canceled the game.
Yeah.
And his grand slam got taken away. Oh. I mean, that's another home run and 4 RBIs that he never got credited for.
Yeah, that sucks.
Which is really frustrating. That's Greg, that's as good of a glove that there is in the org. I mean, he makes every play. And Drew puts a lot of his like workout stuff on Instagram.
Yeah.
His swing looks at leaps and bounds from last year. And I'm not a hitting coach. But being around the game enough, there is a noticeable difference in how he attacks the ball. And he had that nuke to dead center in the Dodgers game the other day. Not sure if you saw that.
I didn't see the play, but I
look it up. It was roped.
Yeah.
And listen, it's a spring training game, but I think it's so tough because again, it's minor league baseball and these guys are trying to get to the big leagues. But if you're talking from a team atmosphere, Drew Bowser can be a really nice bench piece. I mean, that's not something that necessarily happens in minor league ball much anymore.
Yeah.
Where you got these guys off the bench, but you're one injury away from that's what happened. He was one injury away. He played a ton of third base last year when Sisneros went down.
Yeah.
He had to end up being playing first base a bunch. So
yeah.
I really like Drew Bowser and I hope he is able to find it a bit, but it's tough when you're in limited at bats, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Again, I was really impressed at times with him last year. I think maybe year 2 in the Midwest League is what he needs.
For sure. The defense is what you're comment about. His defense is what stands out the most to me because when I first saw him at Myrtle Beach, that would have been 2 years ago playing defense. It was rough. Like he got way better in a very short amount of time defensively. He probably. D'Angelo Jimenez in Myrtle Beach, the infield whisperer, probably helped him out quite a bit. I'm sure of it. Because the first few games I remember watching, I was like, oh, Drew, Not good, man. Like, and then, but this past year, way better defensively. I came away pretty impressed. So,
Yeah.
like, if he can jump up and get that much better defensively in a short amount of time, I'm not gonna doubt his ability to improve offensively as well.
Anybody with a Stanford degree, I think
True.
you could figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And good on him. He got his degree this offseason. So,
Oh,
big
that's awesome.
congrats.
Okay.
Yeah, big congrats.
Yeah. All right. Let's switch. We've got South Bend covered. Preview complete with South Bend. Let's talk Knoxville Smokies, the AA level. Preview their season here. We'll start off. I want to start off again, like we did with South Bend. I want to start off with the coaching staff in AA Knoxville. You got Lance Rymel as manager, and then George Thanopoulos is the pitching coach. I think both of them spent some time in South Bend, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Lance, 2 years as manager. He was the skipper of the 2022 championship team. So,
Yep.
Love Lance, and that's a guy. Again, I've said this for years. Even Max Tolman and I talked about this when we were calling games together. Like, Lance is a manager in waiting, for sure. It's at some higher level. I mean, that guy is really smart. And what do you know? Another former catcher. I mean, it just continues to come about. So yeah, I think that guy just genuinely understands the game, and the Cubs trust him. I mean, he's managed at Eugene, he's managed at South Bend,
true.
he's managed at Knoxville, he's managed the Fall League. I remember we were at Wrigley a couple years ago, and he was out hitting ground balls to David Bodie. Fun fact: he was teammates with David Bodie in Boise.
Yeah, he was. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
that's wild, dude. That's wild.
Teammates
That's
with
a
Chris
pull.
Bryant in Boise. I mean, it's crazy. So, and then speaking of Boise, obviously George Thanopoulos, who I had as a player in my first pro year calling games. He was a pitcher for the Boise Hawks, then a Rockies team, though, so a little bit different. But yeah, tell you what, Greg, I mean, George Thanopoulos is quickly making billboards in the Cubs org. I mean, that's a guy I think that every organization would be lucky to have, and wouldn't be surprised if he had to reject some offers this offseason to stay with the Cubs. I mean, that's a hot commodity. He gets it. He's so smart. Not just because he went to Columbia, but like he just understands pitching data, and some people just get it, and some people don't with that stuff, and he gets it, because I remember interviewing him in our first conversation back together, and like, hey, what's changed in the 7 years that I haven't seen you? He goes, well, I mean, I really dove into the pitching data stuff, and I got good at it, and he has taken that and applied it now to the Cubs system. I mean, good on him, man, because that guy's a hell of a pitching coach.
It's well known that there's this lack of depth in pitching prospects in the Cubs organization. It is not even remotely because of the pitching coaches, because the pitching coaches in this organization are all phenomenal up and down the organization, right?
Yeah.
Like Thanopoulos is terrific. You got Jamie Vermilia and Tony Kagul both up in Iowa this year, which is crazy that they're both there. Andrew Bechter is down in I believe he's in Myrtle Beach this year.
Yeah, we got Henry Hack coming in for us.
Yep. And there's a lot of really good pitching coaches, and I think that they are getting a lot out of some prospects that in other circumstances might not be starting pitchers in South Bend or in Knoxville or in Iowa. So yeah, I can't compliment those guys enough. Let's talk returning pitchers in AA Knoxville. The first guy I want to hit, the first couple guys, man, I don't know. You're familiar with all these dudes. I've got 7 guys listed here, right? Seven guys listed. I'm gonna list the names, and we'll kind of dig into each of them a little bit here. Grant Kipp, I expect to be back. I originally projected him for AAA Iowa. Then the Cubs kept signing more and more like major league, minor league veteran guys, and so I moved him back down to AA Knoxville. Nick Dean is there. Tyler Schlaffer, who we talked about a little bit already. Erian Rodriguez, Yenry Rojas, Nick Hull. I've got Evan Taylor in that mix too. Kipp, Dean, Schlaffer, Rodriguez, and Rojas. That's 5 guys, and I think that's 5 starting pitchers. We'll talk about one more guy in the new pitchers category, but I think those are 5 of your 6 starting pitchers in the Knoxville rotation to start off the year.
Which is unbelievable. I mean, each one of those guys spent considerable amounts of time in the South Bend rotation performing well. And dude, this could be like a 6-hour podcast if I went all in on every single one of these guys. But Just starting with the Kipper, I mean, talk about a flyer that has turned into just pure nastiness. I mean, you don't know what you're going to have. Ivy Leaguer, free agent, guy was about to go to Notre Dame for his master's, winds up in South Bend playing baseball. I mean, that story tells itself. That's pretty cool. Spin rate, curveball. That's it. That's all you need to know. But I think he is also throwing harder, and he has learned how to mix in everything properly. And maybe that was the biggest challenge for him at first when he got to South Bend. Of guys were just waiting on the heater and spitting on the curveball. And now he's throwing that 12-6 much more. It's been a little bit since I've seen him, but he was throwing the 12-6 more in the zone for strikes. Kind of freezing guys and then working in the heater. And then, especially too, when you got a guy like Ari calling pitches, what you can't ask for better. And then he obviously gets to work with Casey Opitz and Ethan Hearn. Those are great game callers as well. And obviously, you have a catcher in the dugout in Lance Reimel. So I think Grant has obviously benefited from those he has worked with, but also, I mean, he's putting the work himself. I mean, I don't know if there was exactly a defined future for him. When I first met him, but now, I mean, this guy.
He's invited to big league camp. He's part of that roster.
I know
non-roster invitees in big league camp. Yeah.
It's one of the best curveballs I've seen. Same thing about Nick Dean. I think between his curveball and his changeup, I mean, that's why he has just continuously mowed down dudes. And not the hardest thrower. I remember you and I talked about him last year too, and I have the most respect in the world for Nick Dean because 2 years ago in South Bend, he was pitching hurt. And it was really impressive to watch. And he was still battling. But, I mean, besides Jackson Wiggins and Cade Horton, it might be one of the best changeups I've seen.
For sure.
And probably a big reason of why he's having success now at Double-A. Tyler Schlaffer. So I credit, and I know Schlaffer credits George Sthenopoulos a ton, because you know the story on Schlaffer, but for those that might not, Tommy John surgery, comes back, really struggles, has to go back to Myrtle Beach, reset everything, finds George Sthenopoulos, dominates Myrtle Beach, comes back to South Bend this past year, 2 just impeccably nice starts to begin the year, runs into trouble, Sthenopoulos resets everything again, and he just scorches earth and beats everybody's ass and is throwing 8 innings in Quad Cities, throwing 8 more innings in Cedar Rapids, upwards of 100 pitches. I mean, and plus, I mean, again, that's another story that writes itself. Chicago Cubs fan that's pitching in the org, trying to pitch in his hometown ballpark, lost his father tragically. His family's diehard Cubs fans. He's a Cub fan because of his dad. I mean, please, I need the Chicago Tribune to write that story ASAP and get him to the big leagues. Erian Rodriguez, he was our best pitcher probably for a month's time this past year until he got up to Knoxville. That guy found it, and talk about velocity and finding velocity on your fastball. I think that's what impressed me most of kind of what has allowed him to develop now into a starting pitcher, being able to mix his stuff with the velocity that he has found. Yenry Rojas, I don't think most people knew who he was at the start of last year, and then he ends the year at Double-A Knoxville. I mean, it was so impressive, and especially not easy too, because he comes up to South Bend, and the way the rotation worked out, he had to pitch every day game Sunday, which I know guys don't love throwing day game Sundays. There's really no routine to it. You got to wake up early and you got to come pitch. He didn't care. I mean, that guy absolutely demolished people. Nick Hall is somebody I still really believe in, especially after what he did in South Bend in 2023. And then to close it out on Evan Taylor, diamond in the rough that I think the Cubs found, Greg, from Miami. I have no clue why the Marlins would release him. I'm not trying to throw shade on the Marlins, but that was, thank you. You know, go ahead.
Evan Taylor's interesting. I mean, because he was a top 10 round draft pick. He wasn't a late round draft pick. I get to speculate because this is a podcast. I'm not seeing the players on a daily basis. I'm guessing that with the regime change in Miami that had a little bit of something to do with it. And so that's I think the Cubs gain, and obviously Evan Taylor can now perform, and he's throwing in spring games as well, which is super exciting.
Yeah, and I'll throw the clubhouse guy marker on him too. He's awesome. He is so cool. I'm not sure if you ever saw, and just kind of stepping aside from baseball, him and Schlaffer did the like headphones guess the word challenge
Oh, I didn't see
last
that.
year.
No.
It was brain rot words. You need to watch it immediately
Is
after
it
we
on
get done
the
here.
South Bend YouTube
It's
channel?
yeah, it's so
Okay.
funny.
Yeah.
It's one of the funniest things ever produced by a baseball team, and it's all credit to Schlaff and ET. But I think ET is like, we've talked about big lefties in Coppola and Little,
Yeah.
but it's so different because he is like full on sidearm, and he doesn't necessarily have the velocity of a Luke, but
Mhm.
he'll still kill you.
Yeah.
And again, like I remember he demolished us when he pitched against us as a Beloit Skycarp. And I was like, thank God that guy's on our team now because I
Yeah.
didn't want anybody facing him again. That's like I don't even know who to compare it to, but it's like I think ET profiles is like your classic lefty specialist that can be in the
Mhm.
big leagues for like 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like a why am I blanking on his name? Lefty the Cubs had, wild hair, mustache.
Chafin. Andrew Chafin.
He's
Yeah.
like Andrew Chafin in waiting
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
So
A few other guys I've got listed as new pitchers. I've got no notes on your run through those guys that you nailed it. As far as new pitchers in Knoxville, these guys ended the year last year with you in South Bend. Evan Oschenbeck, who starting pitcher, I think that he's probably your sixth starter in Knoxville to start off the 2026 campaign. But he was a closer, and we throw out closer. He was a closer in college at Texas
yeah, but he
A&M.
threw like 4 innings.
But yeah, but he was not a closer in the way that professional baseball views a closer, right? Like
he was an ender. He was like
yeah, he was a college ender. Yeah. And then Jackson Kirkpatrick, who I think could be the closer on the Knoxville Smokies this year. And then Luis Martinez-Gomez could also be the closer on the Knoxville Smokies this year. Those are three really interesting dudes. Jackson Kirkpatrick and Luis Martinez-Gomez. This, to be fair, the entire rotation for Knoxville is going to be must-watch TV. The bullpen, typically, so peek behind the curtain, like the way that I watch Cubs affiliates on a nightly basis is I'm tuning in for the starting pitcher first, right? If there's a starting pitcher that I want to watch, I'm tuning in for him. And then after the starting pitchers are out for the night, I'm tuning in to see like who has the best bats. This year's probably going to be South Bend to start off the year. Who has the best bats? I'm watching those. I don't really pay as much attention to watching the relievers throughout the year.
mm-hmm.
Knoxville, I'm going to have to because between Jackson Kirkpatrick and Luis Martinez-Gomez, so fun out there, dude. So fun.
Yeah. Agreed. I'll start with Osh though. Like, I'm not sure. This is like, is this 1992? I mean, this guy is throwing 87, and guys are just whiffing at it. I've never seen anything like it. It's Greg Maddux from the left side.
Yeah,
it's insane. And the fact that guy is the number 6 starter is criminal. And I understand he's going to be great, but it's criminal that guy is not an ace because he is.
Yeah.
It just like that's just pure gamer. Nothing else to say. That whether he makes the big leagues or whatever his future is, that guy's a gamer. And you ever see like sports fans chirping each other like when a team posts like final as in a loss, people post like memes under it. It's like you just got blanked or whatever. If for Texas A&M, it's like it's all Oschenbeck. It's like Evan Oschenbeck just destroyed your team or something like that. And anytime we posted anything about him, the Texas A&M people went nuts. Like nobody goes crazier.
I love that.
Nobody goes crazier on Twitter than the SEC baseball people. Like same thing with when we post anything about Will Sanders. 1,000 retweets. Or like Josh Rivera from Florida, 1,500. 1,500 likes.
That's so funny.
It's nuts. Now on the relievers, so I don't know who I want to start with more, but like whoever the closer is, like you said, whoever loses that closer job battle is just going to be the setup guy. And no matter what happens, the opposing teams, I mean, come on, what do you want us to do? And they're two entirely different pitchers, especially with LMG. And he's like, LMG almost has like, it's funny because remember like when we were growing up, anytime you were learning how to pitch, your coach was like, don't T-Rex it or, but like LMG kind of T-Rexes it, but it works.
Yeah.
And he does a good job of hiding the baseball. He's also got, it's a very free flowing type delivery. It's very beautiful to watch, actually. His delivery, but and then like it's free flowing and beautiful, and then it's just so violent as he lets it
Yes.
go.
Yep.
Um,
He kind of
but
rocks it a little bit. Like he kind of
yeah,
rocks it at first, and then then it's just like super violent all of a sudden. Yeah.
yeah, which I
Yep.
appreciate. Again, like I understand I'm talking a lot about like guys like and how they are off the field, but I think that's important. Like
Oh, for sure.
LMG is just such a positive person to be around. Last year, so again, we ended the season. It was the Egbert nearly complete game. LMG was leaving town like the next morning, and he was like last guy out of the clubhouse. After the season ends, we all have like a party, staff get together in the Tiki Hut,
Okay. Yeah.
and everybody, we break food, we put on college football on
Yeah.
the
Heck yeah.
video board, and everybody's hanging out, everybody's celebrating the end of the season. Well, here comes LMG. He's got his big Cubs bag and a bunch of stuff he's carrying. He's like, yeah, I'm waiting on my Uber. I got to go home. I said, well, just hang out here until then. Ends up canceling his Uber and just hangs out with the front office
That's
the
so
rest of the day.
cool.
It
That's
was
so
awesome.
cool.
Yeah. So he's the coolest dude ever. But also, I mean, he's kind of like another flyer too, late round pick, junior college. Don't know exactly what you're going to get out of him. But yeah, I mean, we enjoyed having him to end the year, and then to end on Kirkpatrick. So that Beloit series stood out for a lot of reasons, but also what he did because of on that Thursday of that series. Beloit, bases loaded, ninth inning, nobody out. We're up by 2 runs. Tying runs on second, winning runs on first. Nobody out. Kirkpatrick comes in, strikes out the next 3 guys, locks down the save. Cubs win, and we're in first place. Like it was as impressive of an entrance from the bullpen as I've ever seen. And it's almost like the second he came in, despite Beloit having the tying run at second and the winning run at first, they knew the game was over.
Yeah.
And he struck out like 2 first. He struck out Cam Canarella and Iva Arquette, and
Okay.
it
Yeah.
was like it was impressive.
Yeah.
So, he also really grew as the year went on as well. I mean, I think early in the year he was just trying to be too overpowering, and then he found what worked for him, and he's intimidating. Like he's the type of pitcher that like grunts and is like staring down the umpire. It's sick. So I
Yeah.
mean, at both of those guys, the fact that those are your 2 in Knoxville, if those are your 8th, 9th inning guys, I mean, holds and saves for days. It's
Yep.
coming. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, both those guys, I think could be once you reach the bullpen in Double A, all bets are off as far as when you see a guy in Chicago, right? Like
Yeah.
they're just two jumps away, and especially for bullpen guys, it can be anything and everything over the next year. So let's talk. You have a little bit more time here to talk.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
No worries.
Let's talk. Actually, it's interesting. I'm glad that we spent the time that we did on the pitchers, on both the relievers and the starters, because in Knoxville, it is the best mix of pitchers in the entire organization.
It's incredible. Yeah.
The position players, not as much. It's I think there's some really good dudes here. I think that it's led by the returning infielder Jefferson Rojas. Like having him there is. I am so incredibly excited for Jefferson Rojas this year, dude. Like I know you got to see him. I talked about this quite a bit, but I think that like if Jefferson Rojas can follow the same blueprints that he followed last year, just a level up, right? Because in 2024, he ended the year in High A South Bend and did not look great during that time in South Bend. He then returned there in 2025 and tore the cover off the ball to start the first half of last year. Then he got bumped up to Knoxville to end last year and again struggled mightily last year in Knoxville. And so if he can bounce back, be reassigned to Knoxville, kill it in the way that he's tearing it up in spring training right now, because right now he's getting a lot of action. He's in big league camp. He's playing big league games and getting a lot of action in big league games playing shortstop for the Chicago Cubs in the spring training.
Right.
I am so optimistic about Jefferson Rojas.
Same. I love Christian Hernandez, but I think the Cubs did the right thing. If given the choice, I would have also traded Christian. I think Christian can, not saying that he does, And Christian can have a higher ceiling.
Yeah.
But I think Jefferson's got the better floor. And
a decent ceiling to go with it.
And a great ceiling, right.
Yeah. Yep.
I've always thought that. Even during that 2024, like you said.
Yeah.
So setting the scene for you. Cold, Davenport, Iowa, modern Woodman Park, Mississippi River. Winds blowing in off the river from right field. Opening day. Cold. Rojas takes Ben Kuderna, the Royals' top pitching prospect, Oppo deep. Wind blowing in, Oppo.
Yeah.
And he's 18. You're like, whoa. That's never seen that before.
Yeah.
Like you said, did the rest of the year follow to that type of whoa? Not really. That's okay. It gets back to what we started this conversation about. The Midwest League was hard for 18-year-olds when it was low A. It's really hard for 18-year-olds at high A. So, like you said, he comes back in 25. He actually missed that first 2 weeks, if you remember. He was hurt.
Yeah. Yep.
And then he just it was personal. Almost like watching that. But I loved it so much because I think a fun fact that a lot of people don't know is that him and Christian were signed out of the same academy in the Dominican. They grew up together. And it's almost like iron sharpens iron, where like they're the friendliest of teammates, but they're also battling each other to get to the same spot. And now I'm really happy for Christian that he gets to kind of have his own story.
For sure. Yep.
And I think he's going to tear it up. But again, I loved watching those two play together. But just sitting in that South Bend broadcast booth last year, I could look to Tyler Riddy and say, like, this is a really fun story to tell down the road. But at some point, they got to take the fork in the road.
For sure.
Right. So, and then like middle of summer when he starts hitting bomb after bomb after bomb, and that Wisconsin series in Appleton when he got to double digits, it like, I don't think he'll ever profile as like, a masher, like home run guy, but just how he developed his power, especially to pull the ball, was really compelling to watch. And I think it's a huge credit to all the hitting coaches, especially I got to give a huge shout out to Nate Spears, who is going to be coming back as hitting coach this year too for South Bend. That guy's a former big leaguer. He gets it. He's bilingual. And guys trust him a lot. I think, before Ivan Brettauer got traded, actually, Spearsy really helped him gain confidence because, like, you would talk to Ivan and he had every tool in the book to be successful. It was just kind of like, like, can you translate the mind to the bat? And Spears really helped him with that.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I think he did the same thing with Rojas to develop that power. And it's like, you ever see Happy Gilmore?
Yeah. Yep.
It's all in the hips.
Yeah.
And
yep.
Like it truly is all in the hips.
Yeah.
And like that's like I would be in the cage watching Spears and Rojas work, and like it wasn't even about like timing. It's about like hips.
That's cool.
And your body torque.
Yeah.
And it was just really for me, like, again, as somebody that like, I quit in high school. Like I was not at that level to play. It's interesting for me to learn too, of like, because I'm learning in the same process. I'm learning the same thing these guys are. It's really interesting to watch. So I think, again, man, like, sky's the limit. I totally agree with what Jed did. And I think that was my first reaction from the trade, not even getting Cabrera. It was like, all right, like I'm fine. Like, you hate losing OC, but I get it.
Yep.
You hate losing Christian, but I get it. And I think the proper decision was made.
I think that I want to point out with Rojas that his development has been, and the development timeline has been exactly what you want to see from a top prospect, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that we get caught up in like these fast timelines, and I think that there's some guys where you want to see an accelerated timeline. But I'm looking at Jefferson Rojas and a guy that was, like you said, 18, 19 in the A-ball levels. and now is 20 years old. I think this is technically his age 21 season.
Right.
In AA, and like the timeline and the development path, and the fact that he has gotten better defensively. He's maintained that ability, that bat to ball ability, but he's also gotten stronger and hit for more pull side power, but also tapped into some opposite field power. Like everything has just been a nice progressive development for Jefferson Rojas over the course of the past 3 years, and I just want that to continue going into this year and next year. And I'm really excited, and I don't want people to watch. I want everybody to be super excited about Jefferson Rojas. I want everybody to be pumped. I don't want them to look at the spring training and be like, get into the majors right now. I want him to continue this just nice little path,
Just let him be.
Yep. New infielders in Knoxville. Ariel Armas, who we've mentioned before throughout this episode, and then also Edgar Alvarez. I have as I'm calling him an infielder. He plays first base, plays some third base, but also a lot of corner outfield in addition to those positions. Ariel Armas set the record for most guys caught stealing in South Bend Cubs history, right?
Yeah.
Crazy what Ariel Armas did. He's also in big league camp with the major league team. What do you like about those guys besides everything?
Everything. I can't say I've already talked about Ari plenty, so I'll keep my comments short. But like, I've just never been around a guy that takes his job too hard like he does. And I think the catching core last year was so much fun and I wish nothing but the best forever to Miguel Pabon. That guy is a legend. I hope it works out at the indie ball level. I hope he does fantastic. But like, I've kind of felt bad for him because he never played. But because but like Ari, the way that he takes care of his body it allowed him to play 5 times a week. I remember when we had a Maya in 18, and it's different because he was 19 years old and he was playing his first full season. But like, you get to the end of the year, he was gassed. But then Ari is playing every day, but then he has like the hottest August among any baseball player ever. He was the best hitter in all baseball for a 2-week stretch. Better than Shohei. It was him and Ohtani for the first 2 weeks of August. And he had a better average than Ohtani.
Yep.
Never seen anything like it. But he also paired it, like you said, with the caught stealing. 60 caught stealing. 60. And he also threw out Kyle DeBarge, the former LSU guy. DeBarge had been caught stealing. I'd have to check this. Here, I'm going to look this up real quick. But DeBarge had been caught stealing less than 4 times all season.
Okay.
He got him 3 times in a series.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it was to end the year. He got him 3 times in a series. DeBarge last year stole 66 bases.
Good Lord. Okay.
And
Ari got him 3 times in a week.
Ari got him 3 times. And we were at home, and the Cedar Rapids broadcaster, we're friendly with all the broadcasters, but the Cedar Rapids broadcaster, and you've been in our booth where you could see the other broadcasters through the window. Mm-hmm. The Cedar Rapids broadcaster stood up out of his seat, looked at us like he just saw a flying pig. Like, it's like, what just happened? So it's as impressive as anything I've ever watched behind the plate. The Carlos Narvaez led the big leagues in caught stealing. I think he finished with 29. Ari at 60.
Yeah.
Just so cool. And
do we have a play on words for his last name being Armas and throwing out guys yet? I mean, like, is it just the arm? Is like,
we need one.
There's got to be something out there for sure.
Yeah, we need one. I didn't have time for a play on words. I was just so shocked about what I was watching. And then Edgar, I think it's probably as good of a response as I've seen from a guy. Started the season 0 for 26 and just had terrible luck. And then his first base hit is a liner up the right field line, and he pulls his hamstring running first base. Like, that's felt terrible for him. But then he really found it. That guy hits tanks. And I think he deserves some praise too for his defense, because he's a really well-built, strong guy. But he, he's first baseman by trade, but he played left and right field pretty easily last year. I was impressed, and with really not much warning. Like, there were often times where he got put in the lineup and he was playing left field and he only played there a couple times all year and he made it look easy. So
There's a little bit of Felix Stevens in him there
there
in that
is.
regard. We're like Felix was a first baseman, right? But like
Yeah.
he played a lot of corner outfield. And Felix was a big dude, and you're like, oh, he can kind of go out there and get it in the outfield.
Yeah.
Alvarez is kind of similar in that regard.
Agreed. And that guy hits the ball about as hard in BP as anybody.
Yeah.
His numbers in BP are really impressive. So if he continues to, find barrels, again, when he does find a barrel, that ball is going a long way. So plus just a great left-hand bat option. I really like him.
The outfielders, I've got two names listed as outfielders, both as returning guys to Knoxville. Both guys, one guy you saw last year in South Bend, one guy you saw a few years ago. There's not the outfield mix is interesting. I know the Cubs just signed Alexander Ramirez to be kind of a depth outfielder in Knoxville. But let's talk about Carter Trice and Jordan Wogu, which I think is interesting. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time here as we kind of wrap up, but Carter Trice killed it in South Bend with you guys. It was really impressive. And then again, kind of like Rojas, struggled in his cup of coffee in Knoxville.
Yeah,
but I really like Carter Trice quite a bit.
And this is no disrespect to how he looks, but did not have the 14 bombs on the bingo card. I mean, it was just bomb after bomb after bomb. And I mean, he got to the area. He needed 2 more. He would have set the South Bend Cubs single season record, which is nuts. Yeah. And again, single season record in a South Bend Cubs uniform, right? Like Felix had, 25, 26, but it was between levels. So, but like 14 homers in a single uniform is crazy, especially in the time that he did it. And for he's a leadoff, body type guy. I mean, he's a speed guy, but he's also an athletic freak. Like I was so impressed that he caught games in Myrtle Beach. He started the year playing a lot of third base for us early in the season out of necessity. And then he found his home in center field, but he also made some grabs in center that was like, hey man, that's PCA-ish. I mean, that's really impressive. So like him, he's a bulldog. I mean, that guy, like ultra competitor. I think, he's a guy that you want in your lineup every day, just from a competitive standpoint. Wogu, he's just hanging on, man. You got to think back to 22. He was statistically, this is kind of like a bingo, not a bingo. This is like a trivia fun fact.
Yeah.
Who was the South Bend Cubs' best hitter statistically in the 2022 playoffs? Jordan Wogu. On that team of PCA and Casey and others. He's proven it. Obviously, high round pick, just has not been able to get past that hump of Double-A. But I mean, athletic freak. That guy's ridiculous with what he can do with his body. So rooting for him.
I think that it's worth pointing out that Jordan Wogu had a pretty good year last year in Double-A Knoxville. I mean, that was a very, very, very tough ballpark to hit in 2025 in that new ballpark there in Knoxville, and he did pretty well. And so he returns as the if you're counting Edgar Alvarez as an infielder, not an outfielder, Jordan Wogu profiles as the best returning outfielder offensively, given what Carter Trice did last year in Knoxville for the season. So
yeah, and hopefully that means he could play every day. I mean, because that's probably where he ran into trouble 2 years ago. Is just like kind of the same thing as like when Ed Howard was healthy, he just wasn't getting ABs
for sure.
And when you're not getting ABs and you're struggling, like as
it can pound.
As somebody that consumes the game, what are you supposed to do? It's like that is the most difficult place to be in baseball when you're struggling and you're not playing every day.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. That's a Knoxville preview. I want to open it up to you as we wrap this up. We talked about a lot of names here. Who are names maybe that might be in Iowa that you watched in years past, or guys that you're excited to see come up from Myrtle Beach, wherever it is, guys that we haven't necessarily talked about here today that you've got your eye on or hoping for big things from them this year in 2026?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge Brett Bateman fan. I don't know exactly where there is room for him in Chicago, but there's room for anybody that can hit and that can steal bases, at least in my mind. And obviously there's a pretty good center fielder up there right now, and he's not going to take an at-bats from him. But if anything were to happen, I think that's a guy that can, especially too, like you got to remember, Pete's still not in the area where he's hitting. He might, it might come this year and eventually he's probably going to be the leadoff guy. But if Counsell's still going to bat him seventh, the Cubs really still don't have a leadoff guy.
True. Yeah.
And Brett Bateman is as good as you can ask for. And we were just talking about Kane Kepley earlier. Cubs have a wealth of outfielders, and that could help them as well as the trade deadline. And that's a conversation for a separate day. I'm hopeful for a rebound year for James Triantos. I think it's in the cards. I really hope it is because I saw him at CubsCon, and obviously at CubsCon you have these conversations like, "Hey, how you feeling?" But when James answered that like, "I'm feeling the best I have," I really believed him. I really believed him because knowing he was hurt last year, he actually did spend some time with us last year on rehab, and he looked good. But it just wasn't James Triantos. When he says he's feeling right, I trust him. That's a guy I trust.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw out another name of a guy we love that, unfortunately, I've had to say this name in kind of the same realm every single year.
Yep.
But I believe in him. I truly believe in him. That's Cole Franklin. I believe in Cole Franklin. I really do. There has to come a point where somebody that's had the luck that Cole has, something's got to flip. And he deserves it. Came into rehab with us last year in South Bend. And in talking to him, he did not feel right, and obviously, had to be shut down. But and I'll say this candidly too. Like I've said this on this show before. Like Cole's a friend, and when you work in this business, you root for absolutely everybody, and you hope everybody does well. But of course, along the way, you're going to make friends.
Yep.
And Cole's a friend, and I love him. I love his family. I love his little brother, who's of course now a prospect, and that's I hope the best for him and that he's able to find it. But Cole is like. It's just the sense of if he's healthy, he can do it.
Uh-huh.
He just needs to put together a couple of healthy months, and if he does, I just know he can. So that's a name that I just hope can have a good stretch of luck.
So it's fun. It's interesting with Cole because I just saw a couple of people posting excited how much they're rooting for Albert Alzolay with the New York Mets and Vernon Davis of the now Seattle Mariners.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
How as Cubs fans, those are two guys that we are just going to continue rooting for like nobody's business because they have impacted us as Cubs fans, even if they're not doing it for the Cubs. Well, Cole Franklin is that guy, and we get to root for him to do it with the Chicago Cubs. Like he's still in the organization. He's still with the Cubs. And all those good feelings we have about Alzolay and about Vernon Davis, it's like we feel the same way about Cole, about what he can do with the Cubs organization moving forward. So yeah, I'm with you, man, 100%. All right, man. Where can we find South Bend Cubs and Knoxville, same general places? Where can we find South Bend Cubs baseball that's happening when this show airs? First pitch for both these teams is less than a month away. It's coming up soon. Where can we listen or watch to keep track of what's going on in South Bend?
Yeah, well, obviously follow the socials at SB Cubs on Twitter and Instagram, South Bend Cubs on Facebook. I'll be joined by Tyler Reedy again in the broadcast booth. I think Tyler is so talented, and it's kind of funny. Like last year calling the games, I mean, I had to kind of think back because Tyler was 21 last season, and when I was 21, I was in Cape Cod, and I'm so impressed by Tyler because of how good he is, obviously. But I think back to like, man, like he is so much better than I was when I was 21. But it just goes to show you just like of what he's going to be. Yeah. I think he's got such a bright future in whatever sport. Obviously, he's the voice of ND hockey. He's wrapping up his college tenure at Notre Dame right now. So he's going to get that diploma. Good for him. But going to be excited to be joined by him in the booth, and obviously fun antics, and it's going to be a great year. Obviously, we need you to get up to the 574 to check out the new edition. Sure. So, will I see you in Peoria?
Yeah, second week of the year. I'll be over in Peoria catching the action over there for sure. It'll be cold, but I'll be there.
It'll be cold, yeah. But no, give me a follow on Twitter. It's at BKing Sports. Instagram's Brendan King Show, and I look forward every single year to doing this, and we had a little kickoff a couple weeks ago in South Bend. We hosted an event with the great Pat Hughes, and I was blessed to be on stage with him to ask him questions and be able to chop it up. And that's a guy I adore, and he is the best. And I just can't Cubs fans are so lucky to have him in the booth for another year and hopefully for a long, long time. And he is the absolute best. But when you hear Chicago Cubs baseball is on the air, it's coming. So can't wait.
I appreciate it, BK. Thank you, as always, for coming on here and talking and covering 2 affiliate previews, going extra long. This is a new record for the affiliate preview, so I really
I'm
appreciate
honored.
that.
Hey, man.
Appreciate the listeners out there for tuning in for these preview episodes. I'm really excited to do player analysis throughout the season. That'll be super, super fun. In the meantime, you can find us on Apple, on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, on Stitcher, and all that good stuff as far as podcasts go. Check us out on the YouTube feed over at Cubs on Deck on YouTube. Give us a like, a subscribe, and let us know what players in the comments that you're super excited to watch in South Bend and Knoxville this season. We'll be back in your ears very shortly. Thank you guys so much for listening.